Hi there, Lemus here. Welcome to this channel where I document my experiences trying things out. I'm not a native English speaker, so bear with me and my very likely mistakes. Feel free to point them out so I can try to keep improving. And join the ride. In today's video, I will go and do some server-side rendering for TSX files instead of plain JSX files as I did in my last video. You can check that video if you want. It's in my channel already, and I will leave a link in the description so you can go ahead and check that video before or after this one. It doesn't matter. But I will simply create a server-side rendering logic, and we'll try to keep the typing and the tsconfig up to the minimum so we can test how well it goes only using bun and no any extra dependencies. Okay, let's get started. For this video, I'm going to use set editor because I find it more I don't know, appealing for the videos, but you can use any editor you want. And of course, I'm going to create a TSX file to have it as the main thing for the video today. In this case, I will create some sort of dummy home page. So let's say the file is called home tsx, and let's create some basic page here. Okay, so right now we have the first thing we need to solve, which is that we don't have any typing for the Typescript to match in the tsx file. So let's leave it like this right now, and we'll take care of that. So the clue here is that we need to define some sort of JSX namespace with the intrinsic elements definition inside. So let's do that right now. Let's create a new file. We will say this is the, I don't know, JSX type definition. And here we will declare a global namespace. It can be declare global, and inside global a namespace JSX, and that namespace will have an interface called intrinsic elements. We need to define that. Let's say the most general way to define that is that we will have strings that will match to something we don't know right now. And what's going on with this? Argument for global scope can only be external modules. Okay, so we need to convert this into a proper, so we can export an empty object, and that makes this a proper module. So let's save. And okay, we got rid of the first error, since right now we have already JSX intrinsic elements defined. We are no longer seeing that error. So that's the first step. But now we need to get rid of this new error. So it's telling us that the JSX requires the module React.js every time. But this is because by default, that is the way that Typescript is being told to handle the TSX file. But we know since we covered in the last video that Bun already handles JSX very well. So we need to somehow tell the TypeScript parser that doesn't have to take care of this. And the easiest way to do that is creating a tsconfig file. And in here, we need to define the compiler options. And let's say that the JSX is going to be preserved. With that, we are offloading the responsibility, so TypeScript doesn't care anymore about the JSX notation and will be passing or preserving that and passing it to whatever the runtime is, in this case, bun. So by saving this file, we can see that we no longer have such issue with the JSX definition because it no longer tries to use React as the backend for saying some word, but it's going to pass it and forget about it, and bun is the one that is going to be handling that JSX notation. Okay, now let's do some basic server-side rendering logic, and I will be creating a new file for that. It's going to be SSR, simple enough. And here I'm going to define two functions, really. One function is going to handle the attributes. So let's say render attributes. Right now, I'm not going to do anything with that function, except for simple returning an empty string. Later on, we can improve this function to actually do the proper rendering of the attributes of any given HTML properties or attributes. And we will also have a function that is going to render HTML in this case, and it's also going to return an empty string as a default right now. But here we will be getting a JSX element, and let's say we don't know right now the type of this. And yeah, just yeah, we can do some console logging here to actually see what we're going to get as a JSX element. And let's do the stringify version of the JSX element just to see it in the console at some point. And of course, we need to export this function. I'm going to export it here. Export render HTML. Okay, saving the file. And we need something to call this from. Okay, so let's create an index or a main. A main. I prefer main. Main TS. Now here we are going to bring the JSX homepage. So import homepage from home. What is the matter here? It's not a module. Oh, of course, we forgot to export. Let's be consistent. Export homepage. I don't like the default export because I like to be explicit about it. And default exports force me to give it a name when I import it, but I prefer this kind of import where it's explicit enough to always have the same name whatever that thing is going to be imported to. Okay, we have the home page here. Also, we need to import the renderer, render HTML from SSR, yes. And well, we can console log this, but it's going to be an empty string right now. That doesn't matter. I only want to do all the calls, and we can refine them after the home page. Okay, it will be something like this. And now, if we get into the console and we execute the main file with bun, we can see that we are getting a proper structure where we have the type for the element, the key if it is going to use that, and the props. And we can work with this to actually implement the server-side rendering logic. So that will be all the gluing code, and now we can focus on the rendering part. Okay, so let's improve our render HTML logic. We can see that we have the type. I'm not going to take care of the key because I'm not going to use the key right now. And the props. This is those are the main keys for me. The key, the type, and the props. I think with those keys we can have a very decent server-side rendering logic, and we're going to use that. Okay, so we need to extract things here, but let's do some safeguards first. If there is nothing, no tsx element, simply return an empty string. Okay, now if it is a string, then we're going to return it as it is. Okay, it can also be an array because sometimes you have multiple children, like in this case the children is an array, so it can be an array of elements. So let's check that. If it is an array, we only need to concatenate all the renderings. Let's return tsx elements, mapping every node to render HTML call, and then join all of them using an empty string. That would be the minimum way to handle this, and it's going to be good enough. This empty string here is, I mean, we could use some sort of line ending or something like that, but I'm not concerned about the formatting. And if we do this, we will have to make sure that we're only using the break lines in the places where it makes sense. So right now, only concatenating everything will be just fine. Okay, so those will be like the basic cases, and the most relevant one is if it is an object. If type of JSX element is an object, well, we can do a few more things. I think, yeah, we can get rid of this because we are seeing this right here. I don't think we need this anymore. And what I'm going to do here is to console warn unknown JSX element. Um, yeah, we can stringify it if that's the case. I guess I didn't have to delete the whole lines, just to edit it. But here we can be explicit about it. If we get to this default return, it's because we weren't able to handle the JSX element, and we will want a message or a warning to not have it. I don't know, to not have it silently pass, and we can see what was actually being passed as a JSX element, and we can update the code here to handle that specific case. So this is just a final safeguard in case we forgot something here. I'm thinking maybe when if it's a number or something like that, it's not an object. Uh, yeah, yeah. Let's keep it simple right now. Uh, okay, so we need to extract the type and the props from JSX element. Not from. This is not an import. Equals. Okay, type and props. Of course, is complaining because the JSX element doesn't have a type, so it is not going to be. Uh, we need to be explicit about it later on. Right now, that's just a typing issue. It's not going to break the actual execution. So let's leave it there to keep it simple right now. Okay, the type and the props. From the props, we're going to get the children, and everything else will be the HTML attributes. Okay, the children, and everything else. Children, well, the key is going to be there. And well, not the key. The key is, yeah, the key is here. The props, in this case, only getting the children. There's nothing else. But we will have to handle attributes if we update the JSX to add some sort of attributes here. So let's keep that in mind. And okay, having the type and the children, we can go and render the children and render the tag element. So we can say this. We're going to return a string template having the HTML tags, or tag in this case, using the type. Okay, the type, and here we will have to render the children, which is going to be okay, render the children, because we are already dealing with an array here, so we can pass these children that can be an array are single elements, and this will take care of that. Okay, so what about the attributes? Well, right now we can render the attributes here. Render attributes, and we pass, let's take here, attributes is going to be an object, always an object. Okay, we can, okay. So I think we can do something here. Let's say rendered attributes is gonna be all the entries is not okay. Oh, okay. We need to be explicit about the module we are going to use, the target. Okay, so let's fix that. tsconfig target is going to be yes next. I believe is the mo the most up to date and general way to be explicit about it. Okay, now entries, yeah, is being recognized, and we need to provide an argument here, which is attributes. Okay, so for each entry here, entries is going to give us an array of an array of arrays. Okay, so let's map every entry from, we are going to get the key and the value. Of course, we need to surround this with parentheses. And okay, so we're getting every key and every value, and we are going to return that key with an equal sign and the value surrounded by quotes. Okay, and then we are going to join them using a space. Okay. Okay, so if render attributes return, uh, we have to prefix a space to be certain that between the tag and the list of attributes there isn't a space. Okay, and if there is nothing there, you will simply return an empty string. Okay, I think that will that will settle the render attributes implementation. Okay, okay. Looks good. So let's try it. Yes, as we can see, there is the HTML tag, the head, the title with the content of the title, the body, the paragraph with the content of the paragraph, and all the structure is being properly rendered. So let's do some editing here. Let's say that I want to be explicit about the language. English. And let's say that I want to have some sort of, I don't know, a class here that we can, it would be something that we could use to give some styling, but in this case, let's say it's just, I don't know, text, regular text. Let's assume we have that definition here. And if we rerun this, we can see that the HTML now has the attribute here, and the paragraph has the class attribute here with the value. So that would be a very basic implementation. Of course, there are a lot of things that we might want to consider here, but for the scope of this video, I think this is fair enough. However, it bugs me that we have two errors here because Typescript is not able to resolve the types for those objects. So we can do some casting to force the JSX element type before extracting this information from it. I think, yeah, we can extend our namespace here. Let's say intrinsic elements is okay, but we also need an interface for the element itself. And that interface is going to have the type, which is a string right now, but can also be a function. Let's keep it simple. It can be a function because when we are when we are composing components, eventually every component is just a function call, and the type for that is going to be a function eventually. But hey, right now, to the scope of what we are doing, let's just assume the type is going to be a string. And we will also have the props, which is going to be an object. But more specifically, it will be a record of string keys and unknown values. Okay, we can save this definition, and back to the SSR, we can say, hey, JSX, if you are an object here, it's because you're mostly certain are going to be a JSX element type. So we can force the conversion here to cast the thing. And this is not going to break anything in the implementation. It's just going to get rid of the typing issues that we were having there. So I think that will wrap it all for this video. Of course, this is a naive implementation. Take that into account because we can stretch this a little bit, and let's say I have some sort of, I don't know, hidden value here. Let's say is a, I don't know, a span or something, and I want it to be hidden. Okay, and the value, let's say, is just a number. I don't know, 1. By adding this here, is almost certain that it's going to be broken here because we have, well, look at that. I thought this attribute here was going to be not properly handled, but I'm guessing that since ban is processing this, ban is smart enough to convert this valueless attributes into a Boolean representation, and we're getting this. But it is also not correct, because we will eventually want this hidden attribute to be just hidden in the HTML. But this is also probably okay. It all depends. But I mean, we can have issues depending on what we do here. In this case, one is being treated as a string directly, but I think we could have a variable here, and that would make it even more interesting. For instance, I can say const, I don't know, count equals, let's change the number 2. And I want to use that value here, count. Now in this case, the typing is going to be more precise, because count is a variable that JavaScript knows that is a number. So it's not going to be passed as a number. So let's see how that affects our implementation. Yeah, we can see that now we're not handling the number properly, and we are missing the content here. So that's just to show how this implementation is far from complete, because we need to handle every possible value that we get here. The attributes may benefit from checking if it's a boolean, and in case if it's a boolean, it is a boolean. Well, we can change the implementation here. Instead of putting the value here, we can only place the key and forget about the value. Or I don't know, the other way HTML usually does that kind of I don't know, representation is repeating the value. But well, I mean, this can be updated to handle some attributes in a much better and precise way. For instance, I don't know, um, yeah, we can have styles, and instead of writing the styles as strings here, I don't know, style is usually in HTML is going to be a string, but we could use an object here and make sure that the SSR is smart enough to convert that object to a string uh, before rendering. So there are a lot of things that can be done to improve the quality of JSX handling. But this implementation we have right now is the bare basics, and a good point to build upon. And in later videos, I pretend to create a full um dummy block site using this same approach, but of course a more refined implementation, and doing some sort of static site generation technique, and maybe some sort of uh, dev mode server for development. Uh, I don't know. Let me know if you guys will be interested in something like that. I will do it anyway, but if I get enough comments or response from this video, I might be willing to go deeper in that topic. So let me know. If you like what you heard or what you see or the way I'm doing these videos, please uh, like and subscribe to keep you up to date with my videos. So take care of yourself, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.